Okay, so we have a great program lined up for today, beginning with a recap of IWA's International Working Women's Day Week of Action to highlight how our members were taking action around the globe. We'll move into a panel with our four speakers from Gabriela, Middle East, IWA US, Somos Venezuela, and Three Races Community Council, and Kilusan ng Manggagawang Kababayan. And an open forum is how we'll finish up, where the audience can ask questions to our panelists. In between the panel, we'll have a live cultural performance and another before we close off with a uniting statement to continue advancing the working women's movement.
All right, today's webinar, it will honor the struggles and the resistance of working women, and it couldn't have come at a better, more critical time than now, actually. It's crucial to highlight the historic and ongoing role of working women in shaping revolutionary change. From the 1917 strikes of Russian women demanding bread and peace, which helped spark the February Revolution in Russia, to the present-day labor struggles, women have consistently stood at the forefront of resistance. Today, as global crises deepen under capitalism and imperialist powers intensify exploitation and war, working women, especially in the global South, continue to bear the heaviest burden, while also leading struggles for survival and liberation. Remembering this history is not symbolic. It is a necessary act of resistance to strengthen our resolve to forge our unity with all exploited and oppressed women around the world.
At the start of this year, the Executive Committee of IWA called on all its members to carry out a global week of action from March 8th to 14th under the banner Counter Rising Fascism with Working Women's Unity. Continue the fighting legacy of International Working Women's Day. This call came in the midst of intensifying US-led aggression against the people of the world, from intervention in Venezuela and Cuba to escalating war in Iran, marked by relentless bombings and devastation, and the continued US backing of the Zionist state of Israel in its ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. It is clear, imperialism is on the offensive. The entire global system is in total collapse, creating a worsening crisis for the working people of the world, sustained through ongoing violence, plunder, and rising fascist attacks. It is the toiling masses, especially women and children, who are on the front lines and forced to endure these blows of war, displacement, and exploitation, while the ruling powers tighten their grip on stolen land and resources. This is the context with which we have called on the unity of our members to carry on the militant legacy of International Working Women's Day.
Land is critical to many people in countries around the world, especially to those countries asserting their national sovereignty from foreign intervention. The unfortunate reality, however, is that imperialist plunder, land grabs, and war have forced many people, particularly in the global South, to be displaced from their homelands. Therefore, it's critical that we also stand in solidarity with all rural people who continue to struggle for land on this significant day today, March 29th, the Global Day of the Landless. And finally, as we continue to stand with all people asserting their national sovereignty, we continue to stand with the Venezuelan people against imperialist aggression in this current global week of action from March 26th to 31st. Venezuelan President Maduro and first combatant Celia Flores had their second sham court appearance on March 26th in New York after being kidnapped on trumped up charges of narco-terrorism. IWA joins with the hundreds of thousands of people who have taken to the streets to denounce US intervention in Venezuela.
So, solidarity to all of our sisters and siblings who are out there for Women's Day. It's really great to see all of those photos and all of those militant actions. And let's get into our panel now. Because we have a full lineup of incredible speakers today, and we will hear from women in West Asia and in the belly of the beast, the United States, from Venezuela and the Philippines. From all corners of the globe, women are fighting the impacts of the current crisis and are feeling the impacts of the current crisis, and women are fighting back. We will hear from each of our speakers and take a couple of cultural breaks in between. We will then hold an open forum where you can ask questions to any of our esteemed panel of speakers. And you can also feel free to put your comments or questions in the chat so that you can hold them there until we get to the panel. So our first speaker is Crystal May. She is a woman migrant worker and an active member of Gabriela Middle East, a grassroots-based alliance of Filipino women that advocates for women-centered issues in the region. So welcome, Crystal May. Hand over to you.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Before I start, I would like to take this opportunity to thank IWA for giving us time to speak and share our situation here. So warm and militant greetings to all comrades and fellow champions of women's liberation. I am, as shared, I am Crystal May. I am speaking to you all today as a migrant worker and a human rights activist, sharing our current situation here in West Asia or in the Middle East. It's been more than 4 weeks since the current US, Israel, and Iran war started, and the social and economic repercussions of which are already felt globally. While life seems to be normal where I am now, where domestic travel isn't restricted, businesses and establishments remain operational, and there are no shortages of basic necessities. The effects of this war are already very much palpable. So I'll break it down into segments. Firstly, the situation on mobility. As of now, air travel remains limited due to the restricted airspace operations and limited flights by carriers with ground operations in each affected country. This has caused flight interruptions and cancellations, stranded travelers, and there's a huge spike in airfares, as expected. Land travel is also affected due to increased border security and a substantial increase in fares as well for land travel. In terms of basic needs, commodities, during the initial weeks of fighting, host countries in West Asia have assured that there will be no shortages. However, prices of goods and commodities have already subtly or substantially increased, or have been out of stock for a while now. This is especially notable since of the 62 million total population in this region, 35 million are migrants, mainly South Asians and Southeast Asians. This does not only affect the migrant consumers relying on imported products, but also the income of businesses operating on import and export trade. Petrol prices have substantially increased as well, even if most of the production is here. In terms of employment, as trade and industries are affected, so are jobs. We have already received reports of forced unpaid leaves, substantial salary reductions, or eventual layoffs by employers in response to the situation. This is especially evident in specific and adjacent sectors that have been severely impacted, including oil and gas, tourism, and live events and entertainment industries. Household workers, on the other hand, are once again subjected to harsher working situations. There's a huge population of household workers in this region, most of them from South Asia and Southeast Asia. And some of them are left behind by employers who decided to leave the country due to the conflict and are forced to stay behind and guard homes, while others experience extended working hours and additional work, since most schools are still operating on distance learning and students or the entire family are staying home. Lastly, undocumented migrants, those who are without their travel documents or visas, who rely on informal or part-time jobs, remain among the most vulnerable and severely affected by the situation. As the economy continues to deteriorate, their already limited options for stable and secure income become even more constrained, increasing their exposure to exploitation, unsafe working conditions, and economic insecurity. Some may be asking what has been the response so far by host and home government countries, and that's what I'll be sharing next. For home government response for the migrant sending countries, I'll be speaking specifically for my home government, which is the Philippines, and it was very clear that at the onset of the war, the Philippine government didn't have a concrete plan of action for their citizens in the region. While repatriation efforts are already underway, the process remains cumbersome and for some costly. OFWs, or overseas Filipino workers, are required to physically appear and list and submit their passports at the consulate or embassy. For the undocumented, as I've said earlier, those who don't have their documents with them, those who have active legal cases, such as an absconding case, labor disputes, or even deportation cases, they are required to apply for an outpass. So an outpass is it's similar to a travel document that you need to apply from the host government or host country, and you need to pay for a corresponding and exorbitant fee that ranges anywhere between $70 to $200. So this travel prerequisite is directly tied to the long-standing issue of the kafala sponsorship system. For those who are not familiar with the kafala sponsorship system, this is where migrant workers' residency and legal status is tied to their local sponsors in the host country, and the illegal and yet still widely practiced confiscation of employees' passports. It is still very much practiced today, even if it's very already unlawful. Now, what has been the response of host governments? I'll be sharing this as a whole, not just for a specific country, but for the entire region. While affected GCC countries have similarities in their civilian response to the war, there's also nuance. For example, in early March, Qatar issued a work from home mandate for both public and private sector, while Kuwait and Bahrain capped on-site workforce to 30% for government entities. For the private companies, they left it under the discretion of the employers. Similar to Qatar, to Kuwait, sorry, and to Kuwait and Bahrain, similar to Kuwait and Bahrain, UAE also only urged the private sector to adopt a remote working policy. There has been no published or public announcement from UAE in terms for the public sector. Although as of March 24, Qatar has officially ended their mandate and ordered all sectors, both public and private, back on site. Now, apart from these, what I've mentioned, there are no known publicly announced government initiatives in support of residents or migrants. And what I mean by this is there's no like financial support or no shelter support of some sort. Steep fines and or jail time are strictly imposed, specifically for UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain. On those caught recording, posting, or privately sharing any type of media that records military incidents, air defense actions, damage from projectiles, or anything related to the current conflict. Apart from monitoring digital spaces, we have also received, these are unconfirmed reports, but it is still very much worrying, and it's worthy of mention as well. Unconfirmed reports where residents are being randomly stopped by government individuals or officers to have their devices checked for any footage, or as I've said, like any recording that is not supposed to be taken by residents. And the social and mental well-being of migrant workers here. While the host country does have a public warning system in place and official government agency channels that releases sanitized status reports and repetitive messages of reassurance that everything is handled and everything is under control, the overall uncertainty of the situation and restricted access to real-time information puts the toll on the mental and emotional well-being of the people. And so our question remains, how safe are we? Will this escalate further? Should we leave now while the fighting hasn't intensified? This is a particular contradiction amongst migrant workers, conflicted between leaving or staying. For some, the fear of staying in the host country for their mortal safety outweighs the fear of being cut off from their livelihood. For others, living under the threat of interception booms and falling debris is far better than facing the harsh reality of living in our home country again, or going back home, going home for good, as they say. Our home country, where we are also subjected to systematic social and economic abuse that forced us to choose to become migrant workers in the first place. I'll just quickly give a bit of context to that, because the current statistics report that approximately 6,000 Filipinos leave the country daily under the Philippines' de facto labor export program, with over 36 to $38 billion in migrant worker or OFW remittances being received by the home government yearly. In spite of this, the support OFWs receive does not even meet the bare minimum. The bureaucratic red tape in embassies and consulates, as I've given an example earlier, steep consular services fees, and limited budget for legal and welfare assistance to nationals. And unfortunately, reported incidents of unprofessional and unsavory attitude shown by some government representatives in embassies and consulates towards us migrant workers. I am not sure if anyone has been following the news or if you've seen this viral video, but case in point, there is a recent example of a viral video from the Philippine embassy in Bahrain. It's a Philippine embassy employee in Bahrain. He was aggressively confronting OFWs who went to the embassy seeking shelter and assistance due to the current war. And it was really bad because he was of the viral video. You could search it on Facebook if it's still there, but they were the employee was shouting, "We don't have funds. There's no funds coming from the national, no funds coming from the Philippines." And obviously, you're not supposed to say that. And of course, that's just one part. As migrant workers, we also have families back home, and our families back home are also not spared and also suffer under the fascist, corrupt, and puppet regime of the Philippines. Now, the tragic truth is that we're only caught in the crossfire of this hostility initiated by the US imperial machine, driven by its internal crises and Israel's Zionist agenda of expansion in West Asia, in this region. Their current warmongering towards Iran and its impact in the region should not come as a surprise, as we are all witnesses to their war crimes in Gaza and the June 2025 12-day Israel-Iran war. And that was just like a preview. So we call on our sisters, our comrades, and our allies. Let us aggressively resist the resistance that expose us to violence and deny us our rights. Let us all stand united and fervently advance the interests of the working women, the toiling class, and the masses towards genuine national and social liberation. Long live the women's struggle. Long live the working women movement. Long live international solidarity. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Crystal May. I'm just flabbergasted by the way the situation has just gotten worse for migrant workers. 35 million migrants in the Middle East now. That's incredible, and that's still in the Philippines. It was one of the major labor exporting countries. There's 6,000 people every day. That's terrible. Anyway, I'm glad that there are organizations like yours that are fighting to defend migrant workers because they're sorely in need of support. Now, I think that we have our next speaker also works with migrant workers, and she is April. So she's active with the International Women's Alliance in the USA and is part of our secretariat of IWA there. And she's also part of the Defend Migrant Workers Alliance in the US. So thank you so much for being here, April. So over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon. My name is April. Thank you, Marie, for introducing me. Part of Gabriella USA, but also the IWA US Secretariat. And yes, this past year, especially with the rising attacks on migrants under Trump's administration, have been also part of the Defend Migrant Workers Alliance building up here. I'm also calling in actually from El Paso, Texas. If you're not familiar, El Paso is right on the border of the US and Mexico. And so learning a lot from the organizations out here. But today wanted to share sort of how during this time there's really strong support coming from the host women of the US to the migrant women in their fights. I first wanted to share one of our active campaigns that's ongoing and transforming the Justice for Esther campaign. Esther is a migrant woman from Mexico who was unjustly incarcerated and pregnant and actually gave birth to her baby, Heidi, while she was in custody over a year ago. After she was able to prove herself innocent, she was then released, but then automatically redetained by ICE in a South Louisiana detention center. And from within the detention center, never stopped fighting for custody over her baby because she was separated from her baby 3 days after birth, particularly by the Tennessee Department of Child Services. In partnership with some organizations in Tennessee, the Defend Migrants Alliance, IWA, also IMA US, the International Migrants Alliance US, and Gabriela worked with an organization called Alute Sigue to pressure the Mexican consulate to actually support Esther, especially because we have some experience in pressuring the Philippine consulate in our migrants defense campaigns. And we were actually successful in providing Esther with a family law attorney or having the Mexican consulate help Esther with this. And they alleged they would help her with some governmental support, but something that happened was she was actually advised to voluntarily deport back to Mexico in order to continue her fight for her custody case. She ended up taking this advice and is currently in Monterrey, Mexico, where she's now trying to basically prove that she is fit to be a mother for her baby. So getting a job, finding stable housing. But at her last family court hearing, the Mexican consulate was actually denied entry into the online court case, and they did not ensure that she was able to access translation support, which is huge because she doesn't speak English. And so she had no idea what happened during the actual court case. As we have translation on this call, you can imagine, right? Language justice is super important for migrants right now. So in consultation with another IWA US-based organization, the African National Women's Organization, who actually has ongoing and existing campaigns against child protective services here in the US. We've been sharpening the angle and understanding of how the US is actually systematizing the separation of children from their parents. Also, the collusion between ICE, the US State Department of Children's Services, and even the home governments in their complacency. Something we also realized is that the Tennessee Department of Child Services also was recently exposed for a record of child abuse, sex trafficking, drug abuse among children, that is just putting so many of these kids' lives in danger. And recognizing that we see Heidi, the baby, as essentially missing because her mother has not received any updates on the baby's well-being and is being fought at every step to be able to be reunited. This campaign is also multiplying because there are more and more migrant women who have either been detained, whose spouses have been detained, that are starting to get organized, but also need a lot of support and recognizing the shared struggles that they're having. So that's within this past week, we've learned about at least like 7 to 8 more migrant women that were still learning how to take up their campaign in line with Esther. I also wanted to highlight the role that a lot of women in Minnesota have played. I think I see one of our Minnesota-based IWA members, Carolyn on the call. But as folks may have seen in the news, Minnesota was really ground zero for ICE, the siege on Minnesota as a state. They actually deployed over 3,000 ICE agents into Minnesota, and this was costing taxpayers about $18 million per week. The differences, right, between what they were pouring funding into for social services versus the fascist attacks and the struggle that the Minnesota residents had to endure, both those who are citizens, but also those who are green card holders, and especially those who are undocumented. Even being able to go to work, go to school, go to the hospital, these were all impacted by ICE presence. And of course, those who were trying to just make a daily wage, their lives were also really disrupted by this. There was also the instance of a 5-year-old boy who was used as bait by ICE to kidnap him and his father, and were actually sent to a quote unquote family detention center here in Texas that we're actually hoping to investigate and visit while I'm here in Texas, called Dilley. And what we're also seeing is it's not just Dilley, there are multiple detention centers that are holding families out here. But there is a pipeline actually from Minnesota to Texas. And there's been increasing solidarity even across the United States, between states in the different fights. Folks may have also seen the killing of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. Both were US citizens who were out on the streets to defend migrants, to observe the attacks by ICE, to provide medical support. Alex Preddy was an ICU nurse, but were unfortunately killed as a result by ICE. And seeing even other women, particularly Black Lives Matter organizers, Dr. Nakima Levy Armstrong and Chantel Louisa Allen, who were exposing a church that was collaborating with ICE. And these women were also arrested unjustly. And really the whole of Minnesota, the whole of the US was really moved by how Minnesotans took to the streets. They called for national days of action, for no work, no school, no shopping. They were on the streets providing mutual aid, helping undocumented migrants know when ICE was showing up. Our IWA members were sharing with us the experiences on the ground, the hard work, and also the real solidarity that they were sharing with, regardless of documentation status, people were taking to the streets. And so the whole of the country was really looking at Minnesota as a place to be inspired by how we fight back, and how we don't let our migrant communities feel alone at this time. But as people who may have documentation status, other levels of privilege, we have too a role in providing support for our migrant communities, and also letting them lead and show us what they actually need and demand for. There's been other campaigns, ICE out of hospitals, ICE out of communities, out of schools, that have really blossomed because of this. And even targeting of AI companies that are used for deportation and detention, but also even for imperialist war abroad as well. Even yesterday was these large, very broad protests called No Kings protests. It's estimated over 7 million across the US mobilized out on the streets. So the people here in the US are recognizing that this country is really the source of so much evil and so much pain, especially for the migrant communities. And we're anticipating that this will continue to build up in our momentum towards May Day, which is seeming to be a large scale protest this year because of the conditions, the rising fascism, but also because of the shared and deep solidarity more and more US citizens are having with migrant communities, now also with, against war in Iran, against war in the West Asia region. And so US is committed to continuing to bring together these different women's movements um, against war, for migrants' defense, for the basic needs and rights of women, and will continue until we can actually change and overturn the system that is really oppressing so many people across the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, April, for that. Yeah, it's very blood boiling report from the US. And I think we really see that the US really is the US imperialism is leading also the fascist uprising that's happening worldwide. Just want to express justice for Esther. And really, I think we have seen this before, the targeting of mothers and children as a tool that is utilized by fascism to just bury the knife even deeper. Really, really horrible stuff. And I think of prisoners, political prisoners in the Philippines who have also gone through separation from their newborns and how this is used to punish women. So solidarity with all of your work, fighting for justice for migrants, and in your confrontations against ICE, and keep up the work. Thank you so much for your report. And now we will take a short cultural break. We'll give our interpreters a short rest and enliven our spirits a bit after some more heavy contributions. We have Fig from Balikbayan, based here in the Netherlands, who will sing Levi Abad, sing Babae by Levi Abad. And Fig is the chair of Balikbayan and a cultural worker. Balikbayan is an organization for Filipinos in the diaspora, united by a common goal of critically exploring Filipino history and heritage, as well as engaging with the interconnectedness of current issues in the Philippines and in the Netherlands. With an anti-colonial perspective and a focus on international solidarity, they aim to bring awareness of the experiences of fellow Filipinos both abroad and at home. Collective learning and collective action contribute towards positive social change. So I will hand over to you, Fig. Thank you so much for being with us. I don't know if we can unmute. Yes.
Hi everyone. Yeah, super great to be here. I just wanted to introduce the song quickly before I start because it's in Tagalog, or Filipino, sorry. And it is a song, the title just is translates to a woman. And it's a song about how women are part and parcel to the liberation of us all, so that we have a role, and that we have a place in the struggle, and that freedom is nothing without the freedom of women as well. So yeah. And we sang this actually at the International Women's Day March, Working Women's Day March in Rotterdam, this March 8th. So it's a little throwback to that too. Okay. Bilanggo sa tahan at siniilang lakas, kinubli sa sumpa ng lipunang marahas, tinuring na marupok at walang kakayahan, harapin ng unos ng buhay. Ginawang palamuti ng magpapasamantala, dangal at pagkatao'y niurakan nila. Laruan kang itinuring, ikaw na nagluwal, nagbibigay ng buhay. Tayo na mga kasama, magsurit palayain ang kaisipan. Ngayon ang panahon ng pagbabalik, huwas pagsulong ng kababaihan. Di lubos ang kalayaan kung di ka malaya, kapos ang kasaysayan kung di ka kasama. Babae, oh babae, bahagi ka ng tagumpay. Sa lahat ng larangang maging kasaysayan, mangningning ang papel sa mithing paglaya. Sa pagsulong ng sangkatauhan, bahagi ka ng tagumpay. Tayo na mga kasama, magsurit palayain ang kaisipan. Ngayon ang panahon ng pagbabalik, was pagsulong ng kababaihan. Di lubos ang kalayaan kung di ka malaya, kapos ang kasaysayan kung di ka kasama. Babae, oh babae, bahagi ka ng tagumpay. Tayo na mga kasama, magsurit palayain ang kaisipan. Ngayon ang panahon ng pagbabalik, huwas pagsulong ng kababaihan. Di lubos ang kalayaan kung di ka malaya, kapos ang kasaysayan kung di ka kasama. Babae, oh babae, bahagi ka ng tagumpay. Babae, oh babae, bahagi ka ng tagumpay. Bahagi ka ng tagumpay. Bahagi ka ng tagumpay.
Wow, thank you so much, Pig, and sitting down. Yeah, it's really grateful. I think we've all had that was like a very deep breath of fresh air. So thank you. I'm looking forward to your next one. So, our next speaker comes from Venezuela. Luina Jennifer Aramilo Torres. Luina is an English teacher and a tireless advocate for the rights of children and adolescents, especially in low-income areas. Her life and work are deeply shaped by her reality as a mother of three. Due to economic blockade, her eldest son, who has Asperger's, had to migrate in 2019. And today marks 6 years since she last saw him. This personal experience drives her social commitment. Luina is also a brigade leader of the Somos Venezuela and leads the culture and education sector in the Tres Races Community Council. She has community projects such as an English conversation club for children and a comprehensive support group for a girls' volleyball team in San Agustin. Luina firmly believes that education and sports are the most powerful tools for social transformation in our communities. So now I hand over to you, Luina. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm here.
Yes.
Just let me know when I start.
Oh, yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, before starting, I want to introduce myself in English because I don't know. I think is a gift for an English speaker. So my name is Luina Jaramillo. I'm come from Venezuela, and I am a Venezuelan social leader. Maybe I don't know to use that name because I don't feel like that. But I work for people who can have voice here for any reasons. I work in Somos Venezuela, that is a social organization that work with the Carnet de la Patria here, that we organize the bonuses of the Carnet and all of that meeting for people. And actually, I want to say something about the people who talk about before me, because I feel so strange when I hear that the woman doesn't have rights there in that country, because we fought here maybe in 1950 to obtain our rights, and we still have it. I don't know what is the situation there, but we hear the woman have the same right of the man. In words, we have the same opportunity of them, and I feel so sad to hear that women in other countries, they have not the opportunities as us. So that's why I said thanks to you to be working for that. I hope they rise really soon. So let's start with my speech. I'm going to do it in Spanish because Gabriela asked me. Maybe don't like my English, but I will do it in Spanish. So I'm going to talk about my experience as a son of Venezuela, as a mother, as a Venezuelan uh, comrade that is blockade, that is have a really tough economic situation. So let's start. I'm going to start right now in Spanish. Bueno, ante todo saludo a todas las compañeras de la Alianza Internacional de Mujeres. Bueno, aquí les hablo desde la parroquia Santa Rosalía en Caracas, específicamente en la parroquia Santa Rosalía, pero en la Cota 905, barriada popular de acá de Caracas, muy conocida por sus malas reseñas, pero ahora estamos tratando de cambiar esa realidad. No vengo a presentarles una ponencia académica fría, vengo a hablarles desde la intersección, ¿no? Donde se encuentra la tiza, el pizarrón, el hogar, la lucha desde la trinchera política. Para nosotros las mujeres venezolanas el bloqueo no es un debate en la ONU, es una fuerza que se sienta a nuestras mesas y decide qué comemos. Como madre de 2 hijos enfrento la realidad de una economía asediada donde mi esposo sostiene 2 empleos, 3 empleos y yo 2. Entre ambos sumamos aproximadamente de 4 o 5 jornadas laborales para intentar cubrir medianamente lo básico, ¿no? Recientemente mi hija estaba enferma, como familia hemos tenido que aplicar una economía de guerra emocional y material, elegir entre el especialista médico o garantizarle una dieta mejor que la nuestra para que su cuerpo resista. Esta es la necropolítica, ya todos sabemos el concepto de ello, del imperialismo. Un intento deliberado de administrar nuestra muerte y nuestro desgaste físico para quebrar voluntad política. Sin embargo, en esa decisión de priorizar la vida ya estamos ejerciendo nuestra primera victoria, ¿no? Nadie es un secreto que nuestros hijos es lo más sagrado que tenemos, porque para eso los traemos al mundo y nosotros tenemos el deber de protegerlos. Por eso siempre priorizamos nuestros hijos sobre por nosotros. Y para nosotros los venezolanos que somos matriarcado, Es muy importante que nuestros hijos tengan un nivel de salud y de vida importante, igual que, bueno, lamentablemente en estos momentos se nos hace un poco cuesta arriba con la situación económica. Entonces ahí vamos a hablar de el aula como resistencia o espacio de resistencia crítica. Como docente e investigadora veo cómo el bloqueo intenta desmantelar el sistema educativo desde la base. La familia, la tríada escuela, familia y comunidad está bajo ataque. Vemos padres que por tener 3 empleos ya no pueden acompañar en las tareas de sus hijos. Vemos niños que llegan al aula con el estómago vacío porque el programa de alimentación escolar, aunque resiste, sufre las limitaciones de suministros y proteínas que las sanciones nos arrebatan. Sin embargo, es lo único que ellos logran tener al día. He tenido que tomar decisiones difíciles como dejar espacios en el Ministerio de Educación para reflejarme en estructuras que permiten mi subsistencia mínima, pero mi pedagogía emancipadora no ha retrocedido. Seguimos enseñando sin proyectores, sin pantallas, volviendo al libro físico y al diccionario. Cuando los recursos digitales fallan por falta de inversión tecnológica bloqueada. Enseñamos que la crisis no es nuestra culpa, sino una herramienta de dominación y que aprender es hoy, más que nunca, un acto de liberación nacional.
Luina, por favor, ¿podrías un poco más
detenerme?
Sí, más despacio, por favor.
Ok. ¿Necesita que repita? No.
No, no.
Ok. Bueno, les decía que en el caso del aula como espacio de resistencia, aproximadamente ya 4 meses tuve que dejar el Ministerio de Educación. Estoy saliendo del protocolo como el comandante Chávez. Perdón a la intérprete. Tuve que dejar el Ministerio de Educación, cosa que me dolió muchísimo porque siento que dar clases en educación es atender a la población menos privilegiada, pero tuve que emigrar a espacios donde recibía un bono más alto para poder sostener o ayudar a mi esposo a sostener parte de la familia, ¿no? Porque un solo palo no hace montaña, decimos aquí. Mi esposo solo no puede sostener la casa con la situación económica. Entonces, el Ministerio de Educación tuve que abandonarlo ya 4 meses trabajando para escuelas subvencionadas a BEC aquí en Venezuela. Sin embargo, bueno, sigo trabajando con los jóvenes, que es algo que me apasiona y que estoy segura que volveré al ministerio pronto cuando la situación mejore. Bueno, quiero hablar de algo súper importante que es el saqueo de talento y bono demográfico. Hay un punto que en el mundo debe escuchar. El bloqueo también es un robo de futuro inmenso. Venezuela posee uno de los bonos demográficos más importantes de la región, una juventud brillante formada en nuestras universidades públicas gratuitas, o sea, ellos no pagan absolutamente nada para graduarse y para obtener el título. El imperialismo nos bloquea las cuentas, pero nos roba los cerebros. Es un
Luina,
extractivismo. Ajá,
Luina, ¿me oye?
ajá.
Ah, perdón. Si quiere, por favor, estamos teniendo problemas con la interpretación en español. ¿Podría cambiar a inglés por un momento?
Claro que sí.
Gracias.
Let me go down here. Okay. I just talking about the thief of talents and the demographic dependent. There is a point of the word must here. The block is also the thief of our future. Venezuela possesses one of the most important demographic dividends in the region. A brilliant youth trained in our free public university. Imperialism blocks our accounts, but it's still our brain. It is a modern form of extractivism. The Venezuelan state invests years in training high-level doctors, engineers, and teachers, and others professions too. And then economic suffocation pushed these young people to migrate to other countries, which exploit for free human capital. They did not spend a cent to train them. Every Venezuelan professional chilling abroad is a testimony to the quality of our education, but also an indictment of the cruelty of those who force us to export our greatest wealth of youth. What it means that here in Venezuela we train people who is young, of course, because our bachelor is like 15 years old. They go to university for 5 years and obtains a bachelor degree, maybe in medicines or is any engineer, kind of engineer. And because of our economic system that is derived from the blockade, they decide to go out of our countries and work uh, in maybe in Chile, in Ecuador, in Spain, or even the United States. They were there for that countries that they don't invest any a penny in their train. So this is a way to steal our future too, because we need the doctors, we need the engineers to develop our country too. Okay, now I'm going to talk about women's subject of communal transformation. That is my specialty. I know I'm a teacher, but it's a really, really, really good topic here. Despite this panorama, there is no defeat in Venezuela. There is organization as a social activist in my community. I witness how women have taken on the role of weavers of life. It is we who organize the territory, who ensure that benefits reach the neighborhood most in need, who turns scarcity into collective solidarity. It is not just resilience, it is a class consciousness. We believe in our national project with all its lights and shadows. We don't know ask for clarity, we demand sovereignty, we want to improve what is wrong from within with our own hands, without the blackmail or those who suffocate us, and only to offer themselves as savior. We thought that the way forward is communal, feminist, and deeply Bolivarian. That I'm trying to say here is that we are still like a united power here in Venezuela. We have a really, really big conviction of we have the right of to decide what is our future. We don't need not anyone out of our country or out of our borders come to say what we have to do or how to state it, how to do it. So we have the power, we have the organization, we have the right to decide, and I'm sure all of the women here in Venezuela wants to go up in our system. I'm sure the revolution, the Venezuelan revolution, is the best way for us right now, but we need to fight for, because external forces don't want that we reach our systems as we want, as we dream, as a Chavez dream of. So it is important to know that almost 1950% of the leader of the streets here in Venezuela is a woman. We have women ministers, we have vice ministers that are women. That's what I said at the beginning. I don't know what happened in the world, but we are really organized. We have a really big brain, and we can do the same job of the men do. So, woman, it is important in our community. It is important in our government. It is important in our world, and we start with the communal transformation. For us to start from the base and go up is important. As a conclusions, I want to talk about the theme of the hope. I am with one certainly that is already true. The blockade may take away our protein some day of the month. It may steal our sleep with multiple jobs, but it has not been able to snatch our identity or our joy. We care for our children almost alone at home while working for our country because we know we are building the ground where they will be work for free. From the land of Oliva, we tell you we shall overcome because our pedagogic is that of love and our politics is that of life. And to the blockade, a long life, the International Working Woman. Uh, I love teach. I going to keep in the school, and I hope you understand my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luina. It's a wonderful presentation, and I was so inspired. I was fortunate to visit Venezuela 2 times and so impressed with your society, and I'm so angry at the disinformation and the black propaganda that is trying to sully and to dirty what the beautiful project that you have. And I thought I was really struck by how turning scarcity into collective solidarity. Yes. And also I have to mention that, as you say, women play such an important role, and you have a minister of women's and gender equality that's very active, that I'm connected to as well. So I'm very proud about that. So thank you very much. Oh, and just to mention that, IWA, as well as ILPS and other sister and brother organizations, have been waging a campaign for the past month in defense of Venezuela, and talking, educating people about the actual situation there. So venceremos. So
venceremos.
Yeah. So next we have Jack Ruiz, and she's the spokesperson from Kilusang ng Manggagawan Kababaihan in the Philippines. She's been organizing women workers in enclaves, export processing zones, retail and manufacturing for 9 years. Her organization, KMK, is a national alliance of women workers, formations, unions, and associations that aims to forward the welfare and rights of women workers for living wage, decent working conditions, security of tenure, and an end to violence and harassment against women, and the right to freedom of association. KMK is a member of ILPS, International Women's Alliance, APWLD, and a co-convener of Women Workers United. So if you haven't heard of it, WWU, Women Workers United, is the broadest formation of women workers and unionists from major labor federations and women's organizations in the country. Jack is also a convener spokesperson for Women Workers for Health Empowerment Network. So this is a women-led and worker-led network that advocates for improved sexual and reproductive health outcomes, safer and healthier workplaces, and provides crucial information and services to women working, to women workers facing access challenges. So thank you very much, Jack, for being with us, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Marie. You're hearing me now? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just start my camera. Okay. Again, thank you. Good evening and good morning to everyone. I'm grateful to be part of this acknowledging the role of across all nations. And let me start by bringing on major points of my presentation. It is divided into three. So I'll be speaking on the general situation of the women here in the Philippines. Next is the particular situation of women workers and how we fight back or our call or our fight during this crucial times under the U.S. Marcos Jr. regime. 4 years under the fascist U.S. Marcos regime, the material condition of Filipino women have not changed. The long-standing problem brought about poverty, landlessness, and underdevelopment still haunt the everyday life of Filipino women. In the last few months, billions were taken by surprise when reports of trillions of pesos in public funds were embezzled through flood control and other infrastructure projects by past and incumbent administration. These scandals highlights the national democratic left in the Philippines, which we call the bureaucrat capitalism, a system where public officials use their power and position to accumulate wealth through corrupt practices and or in coordination with multinational companies. It further exposes inequality as this public funds should be used to build women's shelters, more maternity hospitals in far-flung areas, fund free education, social protection, and the likes. Despite public outrage, high-ranking officials implicated in the scam still enjoys impunity. Furthermore, Filipino women bore the brunt of regressive taxation. Can turn into the third slide. Regressive taxation in the Philippines as household budget managers, where taxes can on can of sardines and a Hermes Birkin bag are the same. As one senator put it, aside from basic goods and commodities, value-added taxes are also added to utilities such as water, electricity, and more and recently on digital transactions. While big corporations enjoy holidays and incentives, ordinary Filipinos pay the heaviest tax with none of being put into decaying social services in the country. think next slide. The ongoing yeah women workers and the poor carry the heaviest brunt of the global crisis, which we did not create. The ongoing imperialist aggression in West Asia launched by US Israel against the Islamic Republic of Iran have made conditions worsen. It drove pump prices up and increased already expensive electricity, water rates, and other prices of commodities. This enraged transport workers and the commuting public into demanding the suspension of the value-added tax and excise taxes on oil products. On the short term, while the renationalization of our oil industries for the long-term solution. The wall-to-wall coverage of this conflict also made Filipino questions if U.S. military bases in the country, or what the government mouthpiece call EDCA sites, can be a legitimate target in case of war, further endangering women in the communities, especially the peasant communities. Filipino migrant workers, mostly women, are also the most vulnerable. Next, please. Every second of the U.S. Marcos regime disregard the most urgent demands of the different sectors. Filipino women will continue to take the streets and occupy what the spaces have to pass for impactful solution rather than the stop-up measures or the government is using now the IWWD financial aid. Next. I will go now with situation of Filipino workers. Filipino workers, women workers occupy in the valued position both as women and a worker in the country. First, we face black wages in the report of the Philippine Statistics Authority in 2024, the labor force participation of women accounts only to 52.3%, men accounts 50%. So why women are heavily rated in the manufacturing and industries or service industry? They face lower wages or the wage gap, uncertainty benefits, and workplace harassment. Gender pay gap usually accounts in services and sales work and those who perform elementary occupations. Second is the while easy for companies. Next, please. Yeah. While it's easy for companies to hire women workers, these schemes put women in the vulnerable situation or position of accepting jobs with unsafe working conditions or in exchange for a meager wage. They are what we call the contractuals, job orders, outsourced, and project-based women workers. They are pushed back, of course. These policies are pushed back by the local laws signed the previous stations, and it's been really concerned on the security of tenure of most workers in the Philippines. To account job orders or project-based workers in the public sectors, of those 2 billion employees employed in the public sector, 0.2 million are women who occupy positions for none of men. And out of the 1.2 million, there are 771 job orders or project-based women workers who are the public sectors. Number 3, informalizations and reserve labor force. Of course, in the Philippines, opportunities, Filipino are forced to accept precarious work. This wins their bargaining power and reinforces labor exploitation while already battling with low wages and income. They account to at least 20.6 million Filipinos, consisting of women, which are called self-employed individuals, vendors, platform workers, domestic workers, housemaids or nannies, and other such informal setup. There have been a lot of reports in the past years where vendors from Cebu, Baguio, where markets are pushed into privatizations, have impacted most informal sectors in those regions. Number 4, repression of labor movements, tagging and labeling of someone as communist or communist sympathizers remain a government policy, with the chief executive as the chairman, the NPF-ELCA, and to unionize workers are harassed, jailed, and suppressed. Trade unionists and organizers were demonized and worse, been killed. In the recent reports by the Workers' Rights Watch, in 2016 documented cases, none of the 105 cases documented of the killings of trade union leaders has not yet been resolved. Given all the recommendation from the previous years in 2023, where the ILO high-level tripartite missions have monitored and been recording violations among trade union leaders and even organizers. And of course, with the ongoing U.S. military presence in the country, human rights violation will continue, especially in the rural communities where a life and livelihood of the peasant women are at hand. Then, next please. So we hold half of the sky and we will continue to fight. We're actively in the forefront of the struggle to change the systems we are facing right now. We are tasked to organize and form unions and free union formation to strengthen unity and solidarity. As for KMK, we actually have free union formations. Membership are both in the formal and informal work setups. So we usually gather them and bring them together to study and unite to wage our call for living wage and decent jobs in the Philippines. We must struggle beyond economism and become revolutionary unions. We must link together with other sectors in the society. Workers must push in leading a genuine agrarian reform and national industrialization, twin pillars that will solve our long-standing economic problems. Next, please. While parliamentary struggle is not just having a representation inside the Hall of Congress, but rather a space that pushes for genuine representation for the people and by the people. KMK and other trade union organizations have been actively using this space to call for national living wage, security of our jobs, and our right to union and freedom of association. On the other hand, next please, there are also women who joined the armed revolution and wage armed struggle against long-standing poverty and injustice. Our task is not yet finished. Next. This is the last slide, I think. Our task is not yet finished. We must link arms with oppressed sectors and build a broad popular front with international authoritarian to reshape a society free from exploitation and oppression. So, thank you. Makibaka, wamatakaw. Long live international solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. Yes, makibaka, wag matakot. I remember that call. I spent time in the Philippines, and I'm a filmmaker, and one of my first films was about the women's movement in the Philippines, and KMK was right there along with all of the other women's organizations. So I think one thing that stands out many things stand out in your presentation, but it's just the level of organization that women in the Philippines are such excellent organizers. Wherever they are, they get organized. And so there's many, many organizations, and they work together, and they're so militant and inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that and for getting us a little bit back into the Philippine context.
Thank you.
We have a little another cultural part here, and we can welcome back our wonderful artist Fig, who's going to share another song with us, and it's "Workers of the World Unite" by Last International. So Fig, please.
Thank you. I come from East Visaya, where I was born in an old back shed. My father moved us to Mindanao, where he was forced to use his hands. Then late one night they took him away from us because he learned to use his head. My mother cried when the judge said life. The union was his only crime. I'm still told to leave it all behind. I spent my whole life on the picket line, screaming, workers unite, don't give up the fight. Workers of the world unite, unite. At my old age, I'm still working as a slave. The bosses work you to your grave. They claim to be like common folk. They packed their bags when the levees broke. For 5 long days, I watched the waters rise. I was forgotten and left to die. I have my country, I have my home, but no one to call my own. I'm drifting back to East Visaya. I'm going back to that old art shed. I remember what my father said when he was waiting in line for bread, screaming, workers unite, don't give up the fight. Workers of the world unite, unite. Workers unite, don't give up the fight. Workers of the world unite, unite.
Thank you so much to Fig and to your cat for giving us that strong ending, very militant song. Of course, written by the Left International, but this version is one that is adapted to the Filipino context. So thank you again, Fig, for that song. And we're now actually coming to the end of our webinar today. And we will just close off with a final question for each of our panelists to answer. And I will pass to each of the panelists one moment. Yes, as we were continuing this fight against fascism, and we've heard so much information from each of our esteemed speakers and the very important struggles they are waging in their context. So the question that we want to ask you is, and we want your closing thoughts on, what do you want people to take away from your sharing? And what can we all do to continue fighting fascism? And I'll just call on each of our speakers. So first off, we will go to our who we had as our first speaker, Crystal. So once again, I will repeat that. What do you want people to take from your sharing, and what can they do to continue fighting fascism?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Yasmin, for that question. What I've shared earlier was due to constraint. There's a lot more to be shared actually with what's going on in where I am right now. It was a very condensed version of the situation. And I hope I was able to share enough information for everyone who's listening to understand what we're going through here right now. And what do I want people to take from that? I want, not I want, but basically I wish and I hope that everyone would have a clearer understanding and vision of that our situation here is not it's not limited to what's going on here. Like what I said earlier and what I've shared, the impacts of this is already being felt globally. And we must not lose sight of the root causes of the what's happening here, what's happening in Venezuela. Everything is interconnected. And we know that it's all rooted in the imperialist, and fascist government of the United States. And as I say, as I am sharing now, it is important for us that it is important for everyone to understand that this is not going to be resolved very quickly. This is going to be a very long fight, even if, for say, for example, the situation here gets resolved in a month or two. We know that imperialism, fascism will still exist. And if we do not steadfastly hold on to rising up against that, the same situation will happen either here, either in a different region, everywhere else. So it is important for us to just keep on rising. Remember that we are all connected and we must stand up for everyone, not just the women, the children, for the migrants, for the minority, for everyone that is oppressed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal May, and just deep solidarity with you in your struggle. I will now move on to I think that where the belly of the beast of our of the enemy is. April, same question to you.
Yeah, yes, we are truly in the belly of the beast, and we know at this time it's so important for more and more women to continue to build unity. It can be a very divided scene out here, but we know we need to continue to build unity among women's organizations, among workers and labor organization, across migrants and host peoples, across generations, because, yeah, like Crystal said, our enemies are the same. And while all of our fights might look different in what our demands are and what our tactics are, in essence, we're really all struggling against the same root cause of imperialism. Even here in the US, even here, there are so many working class or and oppressed people that are struggling, but not just here, right? Which I think is the beauty of IWA is that we can and should stand, especially in solidarity with our sisters in the global South, where war, U.S. imperialist-led war, or sanctions, economic crisis, and fascism is really the sharpest. And to connect that for so many women here who aren't aware or haven't thought about it, And we also, of this, we hope that our sisters in other parts of the world know that we are here in the US, fighting alongside you all, that we are bringing together the women's movement, that we want to continue the struggle, that we want to bring the struggles of the global south here, and to understand and to know that our fights are one and the same. Yeah, even here in El Paso, the global south is just I went and saw the border just a couple of days ago, and it's not far actually. A lot of the fights are really not far, and with the crisis now that is forcing more people out of their homelands, their motherlands, and displacing them, with the war heightening, with inflation impacting so many of us, especially poor and working class people. It's really now that we have to bring together all these fights, um, against the same enemy, and never forget that we're not alone in this, and build hope in this way. Build hope by fighting together and struggling together.
Thank you, April, for those nice words. We are not alone in our struggles. We must build unity in our struggling, from all our different contexts and backgrounds, cultures, languages. What we have in common is the same enemy, and therefore we move together in this struggle. And now over to Luina, where we can also draw more inspiration from the example that the women have already set there.
Well, I'm not sure if my experience can work because we have different problems all around the world. Actually, I realized that here in Venezuela we have not the same problems of the world about women. You know, we have economical crisis, we have problems with the imperialisms, and we have uh, different details that are the same in the global situation. But here in Venezuela, we have a different situation with the woman. Actually, I think we need to organize like I was talking with Jackie. I think maybe we need a IWA here in Venezuela. She told me that she's working in the Asia and Europe right now, but I think we need to be more conscious about all the situation in the world. You know, Venezuela is special in every topic that we can touch. I told you before we are different as a natural Venezuelan statement. I don't know how to say that. We are we are different. We are special. We are fighter. We are everything that you can imagine. But I think we need to be together. All of us, Asian, Europe, Latin America, South America, North America. We need to talk just one voice, and it's the right of the woman to be free. Right now we have no that kind of problem with uh, job employees and all of that, but we have a really tough problem about maybe not talk because I'm a teacher, but we need to train women like I don't know what is exactly the term when people don't go to the university to receive a university degree. We need to train women to go to gain their money for their life for their kids, and I think that is the most important thing here in Venezuela right now, and to be conscious that the problem here in Venezuela don't come into Venezuela, it come over United States and other countries that blockade our economic system. So I think that we need to be together. I was looking at our web page right now, And I say to be member, you have to be in some association group. I'm alone right now, but I'm sure if we open the door to see what is women thinking about imperialism here in Venezuela, and if you open the door to see every woman who is fighting alone here in Venezuela to be in a group, they will be a big one. So right now, I just realized that to be alone is not the truth. We are a lot, millions of women fighting for the same goal, and we need to be together.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lorena, for those closing words and for all of your insights into the differences between of the struggle of Venezuelan women and women in other parts of the world. I think it's so
Yeah,
insightful what those similarities and differences are, and of course, identifying U.S. imperialism as the primary cause of all of our struggles. And I think that yes, if you're wanting to like bring you like organizations or yourself into IWA, I think having IWA in Venezuela would um, strengthen IWA and hopefully build also more strength and solidarity to support the struggle of women in Venezuela. So yes, definitely let's continue to work together and strengthen our struggles. And
yeah,
lastly, I believe that she is back with us. Yes, Jack was dropping off the call a bit because of the internet there, but she is with us. So for our final word from our last speaker, and what would you like people to leave this webinar with, and how can we continue fighting fascism? Jack, please. I think you should be able to unmute now. Yeah, try. Yes.
Oh, okay. A while ago, I said that our task is not yet over. I think the more voices of women workers are actually on the lower layer of our society, not just in the Philippines, but the rest of the because it will give back our calls, our how our exploited the liberal and aspect of imperialism. How we share the common enemy and we have to share all our efforts, all our struggles together, like imperialism, uh, oppressions and their aggressions. We must be women workers and all the women must be aggressive down the imperialist attacks among us in the South and even other adjust and us. As a school, we must organize, we must mobilize, and we must educate with the most recent attacks, misinformation, US imperialists counter all this disinformation, so that we can be able to counter their attacks on our oppressed women of the nations.
Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers, and I'll pass over to you, Marie, for our final word.
Thank you, Yasmin, and thank you to all the wonderful speakers. It was amazing to hear from you, and I'm feeling uplifted and feeling hopeful. And anyway, all of you are on the front lines of women's struggles across the world, and you can rest confident that you're not alone. Thank you to all of those who managed to join us today. Some of them, like me, had to get up in the middle of the night, but that's not that hard for such an uplifting event. And our thoughts are also with the many women who are suffering from imperialist sanctions, lacking fuel and food, and others who couldn't join us because there are electricity blackouts due to fuel shortages linked to the US sanctions and the war in West Asia. And of course, the courageous women of Palestine facing the continuing genocide of the US-backed Zionist regime. So all I can say in closing is long live the fighting spirit of the women of the world. We are millions, they are few, and we will be victorious. So in Philippines, we say makibaka wag matakot. In Latin America, we say viva, viva, viva las mujeres luchadoras y venceremos. Y viva la unidad de las mujeres trabajadoras del mundo. Venceremos. Thank you.